What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Knights of the Nerds Table. I'm your host, EJ, and we're about to give you a spoiler-free review of Marvel's latest outing, Spider-Man No Way Home, which just premiered on December the 17th. I'm back here with my boy, Josh, who, if you don't know, is probably maybe the biggest Spider-Man fan I've ever known. I don't know, kind of around there, right?
No, definitely 100% the biggest Spider-Man fan you know. No contest.
I've been trying to compete with him all week because I just went through a whole Spider-Man marathon and watched the Mark Webb, a Garfield version, the Raimi, Tobey version, and MCU's Tom Holland version as well. So I've kind of tried to compete with Josh a little bit. He's told me I still don't have a shot at this point, but I gave him my best shot. You know what I mean?
You did. Valiant effort on your part. I'll give you some clap it up.
Thank you. I just wanted some recognition, you know?
You did.
So yeah, we want to get into a spoiler-free review for this movie because it just came out on December 17th. So I want to remind everyone just to make sure, even if you're commenting on this video, make sure you're not giving out any spoilers because a lot of people have still not seen this movie yet, which is crazy. So if you haven't seen it, obviously go see it. But if you still haven't seen it, you can watch this video just to get a gist of how people felt about this movie. And maybe it'll encourage you to go see it.
Absolutely. So no spoilers, guys. Can't wait for you guys to see the movie though and be just as hyped and amped as we are about it. Keep your eyes peeled because we are going to be doing a spoiler-filled review. We'll be recording that today after this video, but we'll be posting it probably next week at some point. Keep your eye out for that. But for now, we're going to dive into talking about the movie without spoiling anything.
So I want to ask you, Josh, as the resident Spider-Man expert in our Knights of the Nerds Table family, let's see if I can get you to be non-biased about this. Was this movie good or was it bad?
My initial thoughts on this movie are that it's an excellent movie. All right. And I went into this movie and left this movie really trying hard to not just have my Spider-Man blinders on and just be like, yay, rah, rah, Spider-Man, but to really genuinely try to be as honest with myself and others as possible. And folks, to the best of my ability, this honestly is an excellent movie. Even if you're not just a huge Spider-Man fan, no matter what, this movie is so good as an MCU entry. I think it's one of the best ones that they've done. Automatically in the top 5, possibly top 3, 2, 1, depending on your opinion. I absolutely love this movie. EJ, I mean, what about you? What's your initial feeling on this movie? How did you feel when you left the theater?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I had a great time throughout the whole film. It gives a lot to build upon for the future, which makes this film a great entry. It had a lot to do and a lot to kind of shoulder and a lot it had to deliver. And I feel like it really did a good job in balancing expectations while at the same time, I'm bringing out a great movie that a lot of people are going to enjoy for years and years to come. Definitely a crowd pleaser.
Yes, I completely agree with that. And I think in the trailers, we knew about Doc Ock, we knew about Green Goblin, we knew about Sandman, we knew about Electro, we knew about the Lizard. We saw all these guys by the time the movie came out, because by the time, I think it was 3 trailers total, right?
Yeah.
By the time we got to that point, we knew all this and we were excited about it. And I think a lot of us were really concerned, like, that's a lot of villains, that's a lot of characters, that's a lot of people in a movie, and we've been down this road before and it didn't go so well. So EJ, what do you think? How do you think they delivered on that? Were they able to have all those characters without, mucking it up and it being muddy, in your opinion? How did they deliver on that?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, we've seen the trailer, so we already knew that a lot of the bad guys from earlier entries into the Spider-Man genre, like Alfred Milano's Doc Ock and Green Goblin, played wonderfully by Willem Dafoe, were going to be in this film. If you've seen the trailers, you would know that. So I think because we already have a little bit of hesitation from Spider-Man 3 in 2007, and then of course The Amazing Spider-Man directed by Mark Webb, where they mushed in a lot of different villains in one film and a lot of different characters in one film and just did too much with it, and it really hurt the films overall. Now, I was telling Josh, I'm still a defender of Spider-Man 3. I don't care who you are. I'm going to tell you it's a great film and it's a hidden masterpiece. It's that film and BVS are just my 2 films I know a lot of people gave a lot of crap for, but I'm still going to defend those films as good films. So I think with that history, I think a lot of us were a little bit hesitant to go into this with high expectations because we were worried that with all this going on, with all this fan service going on, that the movie would suffer as a result. I think they did a very good job of balancing everyone and giving everyone their unique story, while at the same time respecting the source material of the other entries into Spider-Man's, I guess, movie theatrical performances.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I just really appreciate that. And without spoiling anything, I'll just say these villains they're characters in the movie. They're not just like appearances. They're not just cameos. Like, hey, look, isn't that neat? Like, they're characters. And that doesn't really spoil anything, in my opinion. I'm just saying, like, get excited. Be excited. Don't fear that they're just going to pop on screen for 30 seconds and then be gone. Like, they're characters and they matter in this movie. I think they did a really good job doing that, executing that. And I think the biggest thing they had in their advantage was these characters already have origin stories. Yep. We already had Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2 to set Doc Ock and Green Goblin up. We already had the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 to set up the Lizard and set up Electro. We already got in Sandman, I forget to mention Sandman, we've had their origin. Albeit it was muddled and kind of mixed up, but we didn't really have to rehash all that. You know, they give you just enough so that you don't get lost, so that you know what's going on. But these are actual characters, and I think the execution was awesome. So
yeah, I'll actually add there a little bit. Some of the villains that did not necessarily have a great performance in other movies were actually redeemed to a certain extent. So the biggest one being Jamie Foxx's Electro. If you watch him in The Amazing Spider-Man 1, I think me and Josh are in agreement that The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is probably the worst Spider-Man outing we've seen. It's a very muddled film, and Jamie Foxx's performance, I don't think his performance was necessarily as bad as the directing in that film. In this movie, they got rid of the comb over. They made fun of it at one point where they were saying, yeah, I remember I had this weird comb over. No, they give him a proper fade. They do my man justice. He went to the barber, so they fixed him. They lined him up, you know? Yeah. And they made him funny and kind of quippy, which is who Jamie Foxx really is. And that's how you get the most out of that actor. I think you get a much better redemption story for this character than he was in Mark Webb's Amazing Spider-Man 2. And do you think this is going to be something where, Josh, a lot of other movies in the future can take, I guess, a little bit of inspiration from it and seeing how Spider-Man, this movie, handled these characters, a large cast, and was able to pull it off?
Yeah, I think that there is definitely a lot of inspiration to be taken from this movie. And although they did have the previous movies that already set these characters up, they still were characters that were new to this universe, right? So I think it showed a lot of strengths and ways that you could present things and do things that could definitely be a blueprint for other people going forward if they did try to want to do this sort of big mashup. And not just this movie, but look at the Avengers movies that we've had. There's been some highs and lows, but by and large, Marvel has figured out a pretty good formula for making a movie be full of characters. And I think probably their best example to date is Endgame, where it's literally everybody's in that movie. Spoiler alert. Everybody is in that movie. Every character we've seen from the beginning of Iron Man 1 to now is in that stinking movie. And they do it great. You know, they do a great job of it. So I think Marvel in general has really shown that you can do it. There's a right way to have a lot of different characters and still, you know, make you feel certain ways about them. But obviously, the biggest reason why you feel the way you do in the portal scene in Endgame is because of all the setup in the other movies. So I think the danger comes for DC in particular, or when Marvel has not done as well with it in the past, is when you don't have any sort of origins, when you don't really have any time to connect to these characters, and you're just like, hey, here you go. Here's a bunch of characters for you to care about. It's like, well, wait a second. I don't know who these guys are. I mean, sure, you conceptually know who Batman is, Wonder Woman is, whatever. Yeah. But if you didn't have these movies to really connect you with Ben Affleck or connect you with Gal Gadot or whoever is playing these characters, it gets a little difficult.
So you get to see him go through this beautiful journey with all these characters packed in this movie. And you get to see his growth and how he's learning to be a better man. And the fact that they were able to do that and make this a Tom Holland-centric movie while at the same time introducing all these different characters from different multiverses is, I think, pretty impressive. What do you think, Josh?
I completely agree with that. And I think that's probably the best part about this movie is the character development that happens, specifically with MJ and with Peter Parker, really. Those two characters are the journey that they go through in this movie. And Ned too, somewhat, but specifically with MJ and Peter, their relationship and their characters and the growth that they show. I mean, there's real sacrifice in this movie and real choices that have to be made that have solid, real consequences. This has a bit of a darker theme.
It does.
At times.
Very much so.
It's very real and it hits you. This movie hits you. What about you? What was some of the, like the best things and maybe worst? Like, was there things that you didn't like? Because we've gushed over this movie, but I think it is
it's been a little bit of a love affair.
Try and be honest. Like, maybe what were some of the things you didn't like?
See, it's hard to get a lot of criticisms to what this movie has done because they did a lot of things right. But I do think there were times, the beginning of the movie does go on for a little bit. There were times where there was some exposition where I was kind of losing interest to a certain extent. There was a lull. Movies are supposed to go from lulls to supreme highs anyway, but I get that criticism to a certain extent. How about you, Josh? I know that, you're the Spider-Man fan, and I know it's hard for you to pull out any criticisms. Like, I want to hear what you have to say. What's the one thing that our Spider-Man expert didn't necessarily dig in this movie?
Okay, so we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, and I was like, really wanted to try and come up with something, but I didn't want to manufacture something, right? I didn't want to like make something up and be like, oh, I'll just say that I didn't like that. I'm trying to be as honest as I can. I really, really did like the movie. I guess really the one criticism that I will admit or succumb to is the villains do lack in some areas. There are some issues that I don't like. I don't really want to speak too much on it during this episode because I really don't want to dive in any spoilers. So I'll just leave it at the fact that some of the villains left some to be desired. And there is somewhat of reasoning for that. So for now, just suffice it to say, I think as well as they did do, I think some of the villains could have been better.
Well, I thank you for being honest with the audience. We really appreciate that. When it comes down to it, what is your true rating of this film and why are you going to give this film this rating?
Okay, so we have a brand new rating system for the first time ever, folks. I know in the past we've done 5 stars, 1 through 5 for stars. We are changing our scale a little bit. That way we could be a little more scientific and precise. So we're changing it from 1 to 5 to 1 to 10. And myself, EJ, and Dieter are each selected a knight's item, so to speak, to use instead of stars. So I will be rating in swords, and EJ will be rating in shields. All right. My rating is 10 swords. 10 out of 10. I can't really dock this movie. I kind of alluded to it earlier. At the end of the day, it's really difficult to find things I don't like about this movie, and that tells me something. This movie is excellent. It delivered on everything. I loved it. There was cheering in the movie theater. That was such a good feeling to have that again. It just feels so good to be in a room full of people that are just as excited about you about something. Like when you go to a concert or whatever, like just the vibes, some kind of show, just having people that are like, this is freaking awesome. And you're all in agreement. Such a good feeling. So 10 out of 10 swords for me. EJ, what about you? How many shields does this get?
I went to the same thing you did, Josh. I mean, I really enjoyed being in the theater with tons of people and enjoying something as a crowd event, right? That's something we all love. We love going to concerts. We love seeing these Marvel movies and DC movies, which have become events to a certain extent, right? I'm going to give this a 9.5 shields rating. I really love this film. I think that this movie really came through in a lot of different ways. It had a lot on its back to deliver and delivered in most of them. There's some criticisms that we have of this film. I think there's some narrative things that I think I would have done differently. But overall, I think this is a movie where you can compare it to some of the bigger movies of our time, like The Dark Knight, like Endgame, like Captain America Civil War. This is a movie where if you were in a crowd of nerds, you said, hey, this is my favorite. This is what I'm saying is the GOAT of the superhero genre. I don't think people will give you the side eye. Thank you guys so much for coming in, and definitely go ahead and check out our upcoming review where we're going to go more in depth into this. It's going to be a spoiler. Actually, it's going to be a spoiler review. So this is one for you if you haven't seen the film yet. Definitely go out and watch this film because I think it's going to be something that we can all talk about.
I agree. And I just want you guys to go ahead and feel free to comment below what you thought about the movie if you've seen it. Keep it spoiler free in the comments, please, ladies and gentlemen. We just want to make sure that we're not ruining this for the people that haven't had a chance to go and see it in the theaters. I know we're all very excited, but let's try and be respectful of those who haven't had a chance to see it yet. If you haven't seen the movie yet, go ahead and let us know in the comments. What are you looking forward to? What are you hoping for? And what do you think about Spider-Man going forward? Go ahead and give this video a like if you want to see more content just like this, and make sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification so that you guys know when more awesome content like this is coming out. We don't want you guys to miss out. 2022 is going to be an awesome year for Knights of the Nerds table. So speaking of awesome new content, EJ, you have something you want to talk to the people about that we have coming up very, very soon.
Yeah. So first of all, we want to thank you guys. So we did hit recently our 50 subscriber mark. I know that's not like a huge, that doesn't make us like a giant YouTube channel, but it's definitely
it's a milestone for us.
It's a big milestone for us. So we want to do something for you guys, and we wanted to announce that we're going to, in the next week or two, announce a holiday live stream where we'll be doing this together in person. Me and Josh will be in the same room together.
That's right.
And we get to talk about the movies and TV shows that we've enjoyed for the past year of 2021. So I'm really excited to get into that. I'm really just excited to kind of talk with you guys a little bit, have a little bit more back and forth. So it's going to be a good time, and we can't wait to let you know when that day is going to be and what time, so you guys can log in and talk with us. Once again, thank you guys so much for joining in, and we will speak with you guys very soon. All right, take care.
See you guys. Thank you.
Later.